Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I guess my intro is not working tonight for some reason or another, but welcome to another episode of Ryno's Rants. The Minnesota Vikings leave Tennessee with a victory yesterday, 23-13. Plenty to unwrap, plenty to talk about. We completed the sweep of the AFC South, which is always a good thing. But good evening, Doc. Good evening, everybody in the chat. Eric, good evening. Norspheus, good evening. A win is a win. We are now sitting at 8-2 after 11 weeks of the NFL season. The Vikings are sitting in a lot better position than most people thought they would be at this point in time. The national media put the Vikings over and under at 6.5. So we have already surpassed that. Sitting at 8-2 with 7 games remaining, we can basically go 500 the rest of the year and still probably make the playoffs. I do believe that the Vikings will do much better than that, but things are looking good for the team, at least from a record standpoint. But let's get back into the recap from yesterday. Kind of bounce back game for Sam Darnold yesterday. Did have the one turnover that was charged to him, even though it was a bobbled pitch from that Aaron Jones failed to handle, but that was charged to Sam Darnold. Skull for life. Good evening. But did not throw any interceptions, did not force really the ball in any real stupid throws last night. Drewster, good evening. Which I thought was whatever they worked on after the that debacle of a game against the Jaguars last week. At least for 1 week, Darnold appeared to kind of return to form a little bit. Had 2 touchdown passes, ran for a third. So, and he was spreading the ball around. Justin Jefferson got his catches. Jordan Addison got his catches. TJ Hawkinson had a couple. Josh Oliver continues to develop nicely into a second wide receiving threat from the tight end position. The biggest one, I guess, that deserves the dumbass award of the week, or however you want to put, was this week was Jalen Nailor. Had that touchdown pass hand delivered to him in the end zone, and he dropped it. And then they went right back to him after that, and he failed to catch the second one as well. Not sure what was going on there, but that's 2 or 3 really bad drops that Nailor has had. I think it was back against the Colts. Was it against the Colts or the Rams? I forget which one. It was against the Rams that had another one that was right, in his catch range there, that had he caught it, he could have turned it up and ran in for a touchdown. But so Nailor has definitely fallen back again. Disgusting act. Good evening. We have to have production like that for Addison to make a run. Yeah. Jordan Addison, that beautiful touchdown catch going across the middle yesterday, out sprinted the coverage, and I think it was 47-yard touchdown pass, something like that. But great throw, great catch. Darnold seemed to be seeing the field a lot better yesterday, and that's a good thing. So, there were promising things that came from that game yesterday, definitely, with spreading the ball. Darnold, the defense, another solid day. Did have a couple of bonehead spots there, most notably that 98-yard touchdown pass on 3rd and 10 from their own 2-yard line. Metellus got turned around and the guy just beat him down the end. I mean, sometimes that stuff is going to happen, but it is what it is. It didn't affect the end of the game, thankfully. But say we need Jahmyr Gibbs from Detroit. I would love to have Jahmyr Gibbs, but Detroit's not going to let him go anytime soon. Dan, good evening. But yeah, since you brought up Jahmyr Gibbs, we can hit into the big meat and potatoes of kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, and that is the disappearance, or lack thereof, at least, of a sustainable running game. Vikings didn't have it last year. We thought we had it to begin the season this year, but as of late, things have fallen off considerably. And, it showed yesterday we could not run the ball. Now, Tennessee, to their credit, has a good defense. Their front line is very good. You got Tavondre Sweat and Jeremy Simmons up there, guys that fill the holes and make it tough to run up the middle at least, but we were not getting anything really of any sort. That as a team, we averaged 2.5 yards per rush yesterday. Doc, I think Jones is hurting worse than let on. I think that's probably part of it. Chip Scoggins from Star Tribune yesterday said that after the game, Aaron Jones did have ice on his ribs, and he said something didn't look right with him. So I think Jones probably is hurting more than he's let on. He's trying to play through it. But, Jones has gotten a heavier workload at age 29 than he ever has in the league this year. So I think some of that is maybe starting to weigh on him a little bit. Bagging on Darnold hard any. Yeah, and that's good evening, by the way, Gary. But that's a very good point. We'll put that back up here again. If you don't have a running game, they don't respect the play action. And, most teams run to set up the pass, and it opens up all that stuff. And if you cannot, if you can't run the ball, it hamstrings your offense. No pun intended on it, but you are handcuffed on what you can do and what the defense is going to, you can only scheme yourself out of so much if you don't have that threat to at least, get significant yardage once in a while. No matter if we extend Jones or not, we need another running back. I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today when I was doing a little show prep. Earlier in the year, everybody is like, we need Aaron Jones. We want to extend Aaron Jones. We want to do this. I'm not opposed to him coming back, but, and I think the running game as a whole, I think there is more to it than just the running backs. I think a lot of it boils down to the failure up front of the offensive line to properly open the holes. That's a big part of it. Chris, then we need Jones for the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to need him. You're going to have to be able to run the ball at least enough to keep the other team honest once we hit the playoffs, assuming we get there, which, the way things are looking, we probably will be at least a wild card. Jones need to catch that pitch. Yeah. Now, to Doc's point earlier on that one, if those ribs of his are not, are hurting him worse than he's letting, he is wearing a flat jacket. So, that does, tighten up your flexibility and your mobility a little bit. And, the pitch was a little bit behind him. He still should have gotten it, but there are things that kind of play into this. Why you're being subjected to Cowboys football. because they're America's team, GMAC, and everybody wants to watch the Dallas Cowboys get their asses handed to them. I mean, I will admit it always is enjoyable to watch Dallas get beat, but yeah, I mean, that's why you come on here and listen to me rant for a while here first, and then you can go back and watch that later if you so, Good evening, Sonny. Bucking, yeah, the Cowboys, Buck and Aikman. Yeah, that is the trifecta of bleh for tonight. But just me getting low in the cameras. Akers looking better. I don't know that he's looking any better per se. I think Aaron Jones is looking worse, and I think some of that is due to the injury. But GMAT, good point here. Better lineman will make any running back better. Hopefully, we upgrade there next season. Here's some numbers I was looking at here today. In the last 4 games, the Vikings running game as a total is only averaging 3.1 yards per carry. It was 2.9 against the Rams, up to 4.2 against the Colts, 2.9 against Jacksonville, and 2.5 yesterday against Tennessee. So that's not going to get it done in any way, shape, or form. They're not respecting the run at all there. Now, what do you do about that at this point in time during the season? Unfortunately, we can't change up the offensive line. They did make a change yesterday, bringing in Dalton Reisner to start over Ed Ingram. I don't know that anybody noticed. I will give Reisner the benefit of the doubt after one game because it's a position he has not played since college, and his first game back this season, week 11 of the NFL season, he's going to be a little bit rusty. He's going to be a little bit off. Now we will see here in the next game or two. Chicago is going to be a good test against him, this weekend for him. Akers getting receiving touchdown. Yeah, I mean, we'll take those any way we can get them, whether it's running or throwing. I mean, we haven't had a rushing touchdown since the Colts game. So that's, something that we kind of need. Aaron Jones, I think he's only got 2 rushing touchdowns all year. Game off to get healthy. At this point in time, Ant, that's maybe not a bad idea. I mean, he's not really helping the team all that much. Like I said, we talked about, I rattled off the team yards per carry here a minute ago. Aaron Jones as an individual is averaging 4.4 yards per carry on the season. That is the lowest of his 8-year NFL career. Last 4 weeks for Aaron Jones. Week 8, he was at 3.1 yards per carry. Week 9, he was at 3. Week 10 against the Colts, he was up to 5.2. I mean, he had a good game against the Colts. Week 10 was last week against the Jags. So he didn't run much, though. And week 11 was 2.5 yards per carry, averaging 3.2 over the last 4 weeks. That's not going to get it done either. Jones is probably a better back, but Josh Jacobs can be that backfield every week. That's true. Jacobs has played well for Green Bay this year, and I think they're, from a production standpoint, they're happy with what they got. And Kearns at Juergens is dressing over Feeney, must be looking good in practice. Yeah, I guess I hadn't seen that, Dan, but I mean, Feeney was a veteran presence, and he's, I guess, was brought in for that. I know they like Cam Juergens. They liked him enough that he was one of the guys that they wanted to get in those with that bevy of late round picks that we had. So hopefully that he's something that can at least develop into a good backup at the very least. I mean, we start looking at what the Vikings are going to need next year. Interior offensive line is right near the top of the list, center and right guard. Then you've all, defensive line and cornerback are your other 2 positions that they're going to have to target in free agency and what limited draft capital that we have. Want the Vikings to have an OC who is accurately described as nasty. Yeah, say what you will about Detroit, but you look at somebody like Ben Johnson. I mean, those guys, Detroit is going out there and, dropping 50 burgers left and right and up and down. And they're one of those teams right now where they're just going out and rolling over everybody. I mean, we played a bad game against them and we only lost by 2 points or whatever it was. And, they're beating everybody else by 20 points, 30 points. So it's, I still think that the Vikings can give Detroit a run for it, but we got to fix some things here first. Hindsight, it might have been smart to ease him in and have him ramping it up come playoff time. And I'm wondering, GMAC, if that's something that they're going to have to start looking at here the next 3-4 weeks, is kind of tempering that workload a little bit. Now, I think some of it was, the fact that nobody else really was doing much in the run game either. Ty Chandler had one good game, and that was about it. It's not just Aaron Jones. Cam Akers for the season here, or since he's been here, 3.7 yards per carry. Ty Chandler, 3.5. So it's not, it's not just a running back thing. That's why I tend to think it's more with the blocking and the scheme. We've got some of those guys in there that, they're a zone blocking team, and you start going up against some of these bigger, faster, stronger linemen that can get out that zone blocking scheme. I don't think it has the effectiveness that it used to. I think that you've got to go back and get some of these big, nasty offensive linemen who can just push people out of the way and blow open holes. I mean, you start looking at somebody like Tavondre Sweat, who's 330 pounds, and that guy can move. Jeremy Simmons or Jeffrey Simmons was another one. Could take it a little easier, yeah. KOC doesn't have a fourth gear. He does, but I don't know what. That's one of the confusing things about Kevin O'Connell. I love Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great coach, and I think he will win a Super Bowl with the Vikings at some point in time. But there's some of the stuff that he does. I don't know if he tries to get too cute, or if he just, that gentlemanly agreement that we've talked about many times before, where it's, we're good. We're not going to go out and, now you need to have that killer instinct like Detroit does. And I have my issues with the way Detroit does things. I think they're kind of bordering on a dirty team. Dan Campbell, the Kirby Joseph thing, some of this other stuff, but they're not scared to go out and just absolutely beat their opponents into submission. And they've been doing that the last couple of weeks. Now, I mean, a win is a win, whether it's by 1 or whether it's by 30, but there's still, and Detroit is peaking right now. Come into January, into February, it could be the other way around. The Vikings may have figured something out, and they're the team that's peaking, and Detroit has fallen off. I mean, there's still a lot of season left here, so a lot of things can change. But Gary, what's the deal with Chandler? Why is he falling off so much? Dude, looking at potential. I don't know, Gary, and I wish I did know the answer to that. Because, I mean, Ty Chandler last year, we all thought that he should have been getting the start over Alex Madison way earlier than he did. And he was showing potential, but, and I think some of this falls back on the fact that it not necessarily being the running backs as much as they're not getting holes opened up by the offensive line. I think that has a lot to do with it. The last 4 games we talked about the yards per carry has fallen off. In no small part, that might have, the fact that Christian Darrisaw's out might have something to do with that a little bit. We need to run more on the perimeter, I think, than we do. We tried doing that with some of those pitches yesterday, and it didn't seem to help either. But, and then when they got up into the short yardage stuff, to Kevin O'Connell's credit yesterday on the, and I've ripped on this time and time again about how the Vikings call plays on 3rd and 4th and short. Yesterday, they were doing what they needed to do on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You had Sam Darnold going up in there and just sneaking the ball ahead, getting the yardage and moving on. You got to sometimes go back to that old school football, and that's what they were doing yesterday. And I will give Kevin O'Connell credit for that, because we've been asking for that kind of stuff instead of spreading them out, 5 wide on 3rd and 1. Wouldn't hurt to draft a guard early next year. I think that, right now we've only got 4 draft picks next year. So I would think that first round pick is probably going to be a defensive lineman or a cornerback, unless there's a stud center or something there that they can maybe pick up. We're going to have to look at some of this stuff in free agency. We've got money to spend next year. They're going to go out and try to get a couple of big name guys to fill some of these holes. But what happened to Chandler? Yeah, first 100 guard. Yeah, that we've kind of been talking about that. I wish I had the answer to that. Put up 150 against Cincy. Yeah, the kid has potential and he can do this kind of stuff. But I don't know I said the run game as a whole has just completely fallen off, and it's got to be a combination of things. But I'm not sure that there's one thing you can put your finger on. Yeah, with Detroit, yeah, I agree with that, GMAC. I don't like the dirty hit stuff, but yeah, I mean, teams are scared of Detroit right now, which, 5-6 years ago, if somebody told me that 2024 the Detroit Lions were going to be the words Detroit Lions would be striking fear in the hearts of NFL teams across the league, I'd have laughed in your face. Killer instinct going to cost him to keep your starters in pretty much the whole game. Yeah, they need to be putting teams away earlier so they can maybe give some of these guys some breathers. Just because you get up 14-3 or 20-7 doesn't mean you can go into coast mode for the second half of the game. Go up 35, go up 40, do what Detroit. I hate going back to this. Do what Detroit does, but Detroit is doing this stuff, and they get out there and then they keep the foot on the gas. So third quarter, they're up by 30 points. They're throwing the ball and getting it, going up by 37 points. KOC likes Akers more because he used to be with the Rams. I mean, there is something with the familiarity there, but I mean, you mentioned it even earlier, Ant, that Akers has looked better than Chandler lately. Now, like I said, nobody's really looked that great, but the entire Detroit offensive line is elite. That makes a big difference too, and it helps a ton with their running game. Now, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are very good running backs. Montgomery has stepped it up when he went to Detroit. When he was in Chicago, he was good, but again, the offensive line makes all the difference. I mean, it's old school football. You build the trenches and then you work your way out. Now, the Vikings, unfortunately, for years have neglected that inside of the offensive. But we have 2 of the best tackles in the league. Brian O'Neill hasn't given up a pressure in like 4 games. Darisaw, when he's healthy, is a top 3 tackle in the league. Cam Robinson right now is as good as we could get to fill the gap until Darisaw's back. Brandel is serviceable at left guard. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, but the key weaknesses is Bradbury and Ingram or Reisner in the center and the right side. And until you get somebody in there that doesn't get forklifted, knocked over, pushed into the quarterback, stepping on feet, all this other stuff, you're going to have the problems. Dallas Turner, I didn't see the snap count, but he didn't play a ton yesterday on defense. I know I've seen people going out there, declaring him to be a bust because he's not getting on the field. Well, the thing of it is, when you got to look at that, most first round guys, they're getting out there and they're playing. But look at the two guys that are in front of, or three guys that are in front of Dallas Turner right now. Jonathan Grenard leads the league in pressures. Andrew Van Ginkel leads the team in sacks. He's got 8. I think Grenard has 6 or 7, something like that. Pat Jones had a 2-sack game yesterday. So, he's got 6 on the year, I believe it is. 8 or 7 on the year, I think, right now. So it's not that Turner's not any good. It's just, it's amazing because, before, when at the beginning of the season, before free agency and everything started, edge rusher was thought to be the weakest position on the team, or one of the weakest positions. And now it's one of the strongest in the league when you start looking at everybody that we've got. Houston 7, Dallas 0, if anyone cares. Hey, anytime Dallas loses, that's it. Like I said, I enjoy seeing Dallas lose no matter who they're playing. So actually good with the D line. We can mix edge rushes for pressure. I go cornerback or center with the first pick. I don't argue that point. I haven't looked to see who the free agents are going to be available, but the Vikings run defense has been, been sufficient, but the problem is we don't get enough pressure from those front guys. Now, yesterday when we started blitzing, which surprised me, Will Levis at one point in time was like 7 for 8 against the blitz with 152 quarterback rating. But, when you had to stop blitzing him because he was hitting the blitz and he was hitting those guys down the field. I mean, now Tennessee shot themselves in the foot more than anything yesterday. There was at least one touchdown that got called back and a couple other really long plays that they should have had that they didn't end up getting because they had a procedure penalty or something to that effect. Now you start looking their platoon at right tackle yesterday, they were lining up off sides half the game. And they finally just started calling it because they were doing it on every damn play. Let us spoil the season for Detroit. I would love no more than that. LDR and Taki and Redmond. Yeah, I mean, they're good, at least depth pieces for right now. But I want to have, and to truly have a successful, front four on the defense, that you don't have to blitz all the time. You need somebody who can get pressure up the middle. Harrison Phillips is a good player. He's not a guy that's going to get a lot of pressures, a lot of sacks, but I mean, he's a plug up the middle in the run game, which is significant. But, we just don't have that pass rushing presence up front, and we don't have, the prototypical big, nasty nose tackle that, the 3-4 defenses typically implement. Spread out the score difference. Yeah, it's, I mean, there's, on the plus minus, they're still doing fine in that aspect, mainly because the defense has been so good for the most part, other than, basically the 2 games against the Rams and Detroit. But, there's plenty of stuff that this team needs to work on. And, getting back to the running game, I don't know how you fix it right now, other than maybe trying to get Aaron Jones healthier. Sit him for a week or 2 if you have to, or at least put him on a pitch count and see if that helps. Possible week 18 is for the division. Absolutely it is, Hant. I don't know. Can Detroit win out and up to, through week 17? Very possible. Can the Vikings win out that far? Yeah, they can. But, there's a long way to go yet, and we'll see on that. Built a great roster. The GM is really good. All I can say about that, at least it isn't Green Bay. Yeah, you got to respect what Detroit is doing up there. I mean, they took a team that's been a perennial doorstop for decades and it made them the best team in the NFC right now. So, I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due, whether you like it or not. But Lions are built over 3 years. Vikings are pieced together over the last seasons. Yeah, that's a very good point, Norsefius. Last year and the year before, especially. Now this year, that they've gotten more of those pieces. Grenada's on a 3-year deal. Van Ginkel and Cashman are on 2-year deals. It takes time to fill in those pieces with guys who can be here for a while. We thought we were getting there with the secondary. Kyrie, unfortunately, the incident with Kyrie Jackson didn't pan out. And then Mekhi Blackman goes out right off the get-go with a first day of practice with an ACL. So, I mean, we've been patching stuff up. For the most part, Shaq Griffin has been decent. He had a little bit of a down game yesterday. Gilmore has been up and down. Byron Murphy's been our best cornerback recently. I mean, he yesterday a couple of times got beat, but hey, Mary, welcome to the show. Packers fan, but a good show, I guess, down there a week or so ago. Go check Mary and her group out over there if you have time and want to check out some of the competition, I guess. Tennessee had a ton of defense. Tennessee had a ton of penalties altogether. I didn't see what the final number was, but it was an ungodly double-digit number. And they killed Tennessee. They cost themselves the game, really. I mean, the Vikings played, good enough to win, but Tennessee had a lot of plays that got called back because of procedural penalties and things like that. Ticky-tack penalties on Tennessee. Yeah, I don't know. There were some more penalties that got missed that should have been called on Tennessee that weren't too. So, I mean, we've had the officiating discussion time and time again this year about how poor officiating is league-wide. And it was bad yesterday. I know there was some discussion on that hit on Jordan Addison in the end zone, whether or not that should have been a penalty. I think it was. It was one of those where I could have seen it go either way if they hadn't called it. I probably wouldn't have been too upset about it not being called. But if being they did call it, he launched at him and it hit him, here and caught the bottom of his helmet with his helmet, and that's a penalty. I mean, it's not targeting, but it is launching, and that's going to draw a penalty more often than not. There was that one. I know that the announce crew, which was god awful, by the way. I don't know what you guys thought about the announcers yesterday, but they were terrible. CBS in general was terrible. They kept missing plays when they come back from commercial break and things like that. But I remember specifically that one play where Tennessee got called for illegal contact on, I think it was on Jefferson, because they were talking about they had hit him before the 5 yards and kept on bumping on him past the 5 yards. Oh, it's awful hard to call that when you're only 6-7 yards down the field and this the contact. Guys, the rule in the NFL is no contact with the receiver after 5 yards. 6 or 7 yards is after 5 yards. It's a penalty. Shut up. Excuse me a second. Can't get rid of that tickle. I've had this for like 3 weeks now, but most announcers are ass, almost as bad as Collinsworth. Yeah. I mean, these guys were just, I don't know what they were yesterday, but they weren't good. We play at the Pet Cemetery this weekend. Yeah, the Chicago or Soldier Field has oftentimes been a bit of a house of horrors for the Vikings. Now, to Kevin O'Connell's credit, he has won both games that he's been there. He's coached there so far. Mike Zimmer always had problems there, but seems like O'Connell has kind of turned that around a little bit. Now, neat little fact here. Shout out to our buddy Drew Bunting, who posted this on our Gallerhorn site earlier today. If the Vikings win on Sunday in Soldier Field, Kevin O'Connell will be only the second coach in Vikings history to win his first 3 starts in Soldier Field. Dennis Green was the other one. Archuleta, yeah, I think he was the one that was whining about 6 or 7 yards down the field and getting called for a penalty, I think. But yeah, they were bad. I mean, I didn't expect to get, Nance and Romo for this matchup, but we got the D team. We didn't even get the B or the C team. So I know why some people just sit and watch the game with no volume, because listening to some of these these announce crews, it's sad. Almost rather listen to Romo and Collinsworth over Archuleta. I don't mind Tony Romo. I mean, he's gotten to be more. I think he kind of bought into his own hype after the first couple of years, and he's gotten a little bit more cheesy and campy and not quite as in depth on stuff as he was off the get-go. But I don't mind Romo. Now, it seems like every time we have Nance and Romo, the Vikings lose, so I'm okay with them not calling plays or games, but been looking forward to see how Caleb Williams faces our defense. That's going to be very interesting this week. I mean, the Chicago Bears have been a dumpster fire. I mean, now truth in advertising, Chicago should have beat Green Bay yesterday, but they blew it themselves. Eberflus at the end of the game, horrible clock management, sitting there at a 48-yard field goal. Instead of trying to, get a little bit closer, he just kind of run the clock out, and then field goal got blocked that would have won him the game. I saw something today about potential. The Bears are crying that the Packers used leverage to get up and block that. It was questionable. Now, complaining about it's not going to do anything more than maybe getting a letter from the league tomorrow coming back. Oh, yeah, we missed that. Our bad. It's not going to change the outcome of the game or anything like that. But fortunately, usually watching at a sports bar, so I don't have to volume. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad thing, Doc. As long as you can watch the plays and stuff. Do you really need the color commentary and stuff? No, but yeah, Jared, that was the point I was just trying to make here, and it was questionable. I mean, Chicago got called on doing basically the same thing when they played Arizona here a couple weeks ago, and the flag got and that was what Chicago was complaining about, is because when one of their guys did it, they got a flag thrown on them, and Green Bay did not yesterday. Strongly worded letter and a fine. Yeah, I don't even think there would be a fine on it. It would just be we're sorry, our bad, we missed a call. I think, honestly, they should start fining these officials for some of these egregiously horrible calls. Maybe that would make them a little more accountable and force them to do a better job. But, my gripes with the officiating NFL league-wide are well documented. We talk about it on this show all the time. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's much they're going to be able to, they're going to do about it. Roger Goodell will come out in the offseason and say the officiating is as good as it's ever been, or it's better than it's ever been, or, they're awesome and they're, this, and everything else. And give me another 15-year contract extension because I'm God of NFL and everything I say is gold. So typical inconsistent calls, but probably, yeah. And that's the thing, people from every fan base, we'll go out there and say, my team got jobbed by the officials. They missed this call. They missed that call. But if you go to any game and any fan bases, there's somebody's going to be saying that because there's going to be a missed call. You can be watching the same game, like say yesterday. You can be watching as a Vikings fan and say, oh, we got screwed on this play. The refs missed this call. Then you turn around and watch it from a Tennessee side. I saw stuff from Tennessee fans all over the place of how bad they were getting jobbed. You see that, in any game. It's just the officials are bad. Officiating is bad, and they're not doing anything to fix it. Didn't they strike a few years ago? Yeah, they had that lockout. It was a strike or a lockout or whatever it was. You look back to they started with replacement refs for the first couple games, and then they had the Fail Mary up in Seattle where Green Bay got screwed over on that call. And boy, when Green Bay got screwed over on a call, then the league made a deal with their officials to get them back awfully quick. But Tennessee fans are liar heads, yeah. Goodell's more worried about 18-game season, or everyone has one game overseas. Yeah. No, we talked about this when they went to the 17-game season here a couple of years ago, that within 5 years they were going to be in an 18-game season, just for the simple fact of having even numbers, and they're spreading it out. Now, all these overseas, every team having an overseas game, I personally don't like that. I understand the trying to, build or expand the brand and all this other stuff, but you look at like that game that was down in Brazil with Green Bay and Philadelphia to start out the season. They basically were telling their players not to leave your hotel room because of the issues and stuff like that down there with crime and getting mugged and whatever all else. And, the London games have been successful. The fan base over there loves NFL football. They fill the place up every time. I didn't watch the Germany game this year. It was the Giants and whoever, so it was kind of irrelevant. But, Germany has always supported NFL. NFL Europe was a successful brand for a long time. First it was World League, then it was NFL Europe. But I didn't even see Sean Hockley call a false start in German. Crowd clap for him. But Sean Hockley is just like his old man. Ed, he used to go out there with his, basically wearing the official uniform with the sleeves ripped off so he could show his guns off when he was out there, doing the Hulk Hogan stuff out there half the time. Green Bay versus Philly in Baghdad in 2025. Hey, don't count it out. Baghdad, maybe not, but Saudi Arabia wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. I could potentially see that now, but feeling you should be paid better, but also held more accountable for bad calls. Well, and that's part of it, Doc. The officials are not full time with the NFL. Most of these guys have regular jobs, Monday through Thursday at least, and then just the couple days leading up to the game, they go in and they go over the stuff and get prepared for that week. The NFL needs to make the officials full-time employees. You don't have another job. You're an NFL official, or you're not an NFL. You're not. It's not like hiring a group of dads to go ref a Pop Warner game and for elementary school kids. You're officiating the largest sports brand, realistically, the largest brand of anything in the world. Well, I take that back. Soccer's bigger worldwide, but at least the biggest brand in the United States. And you've got part-timers out there that are affecting the outcomes of multiple games a week. And they need to do something about it. Hey, Norcius, thanks for checking in as always. Yeah, we're rolling in about 45 minutes here. I think see what's going on here, Shirley. Too. Super Bowl in Canada coming. I've actually heard rumors of that, Ant. I've heard, that there's a potential that they would hold a Super Bowl in a venue outside the United States, whether it be London, whether it potentially be someplace like Toronto, or it would obviously have to be someplace that was most likely an indoor stadium. They did the thing at MetLife a couple of years ago in the cold, but they want to have the indoor experience and everything else, because let's be honest, the people who go to the Super Bowl, most of them aren't there to watch the game. They're there for the status of it and for the pomp and circumstance and all that other stuff. Vancouver is another potential spot. Yeah. I mean, the NFL is going to do what they're going to do. They're going to keep doing this until some of this stuff starts failing and they start losing a little money on it. Then maybe they'll rethink the stuff. But as long as they keep making money on this stuff and keep expanding stuff out, they're going to keep doing it. I mean, I know I've had multiple discussions over the years with them saying, the NFL's own greed is what's going to eventually be its undoing. Right now, it doesn't seem to matter what they do. People still watch it because it is the greatest game in the world, and as far as I'm concerned. The excitement, the intrigue, everything else. I mean, we all know it. We all watch it religiously every week. It's, I don't know, is what it is right now. Yeah, great point on that too, Eric. Vikings fans traveled extremely well the last couple of weeks. Not only Jacksonville, but Nashville. Over half the stadium, from some reports I heard, were wearing purple yesterday. Now, yeah, Tennessee's team is garbage, and the home team aren't buying a lot of them. I mean, I looked at tickets to go down there just if I could have made it work. You could have got tickets to the game like as recently as like 2 weeks ago. I looked for like $40 a ticket. I can't go to an NDSU game in Fargo for $40 a ticket anymore. And you could have went to an NFL game between the Vikings and the Titans. Of course, then, I had Tennessee's a long way from Fargo, so it didn't quite work out for me, but tickets were cheap. Now we'll see how things go. It's going to be, of course, more Chicago fans this weekend, because it doesn't matter how bad the Bears are, their fans pack the stadium. So I wouldn't expect to have that as much as we did the last couple of weeks, but true fans go to training camp and see preseason Super Bowls for folks who make way more than most of us, Doc. That's the thing. It's the whole gala. It's the whole, like I said, the pomp and circumstance and the dog and pony show and all that other stuff. For most things, I mean, for the football purists, the game still matters, but for a lot of people, the game is secondary compared to all the other stuff. So you would check on Stefano, his favorite. Yeah. I don't know if he was a noticeable upgrade yesterday, Ryan. I didn't notice much of a difference, honestly. Now, I'm giving Reisner the benefit of the doubt because it's his first game back this season. He hasn't played, since January of last year. Didn't have much for training camp because he got hurt early. And, his first game playing right guard since college. So I'll give him a mulligan on this one. He wasn't worse than Ingram, but I don't know that he was much better. But we'll see what happens this weekend. Bears got a good defense, so we got to, if they can keep Darnold upright I think we stand a good chance again this week. I think the Vikings defense is going to give Caleb Williams a lot of problems. He hasn't seen anything like what Flores can throw at him. So, we'll see what happens. But with that, we've been going on for almost an hour here and kind of got off on more of a tangent than I had planned on tonight. But hey, this is why we do it live. We talk about what you guys want to talk about in the chat. I thank you guys all again for coming tonight, bringing the comments, bringing the questions, bringing the talk back and forth. I enjoy the hell out of this. Caleb's mom's going to be in the stands. Yeah, he's going to have to go over there and cry to her after the game is over. So, but appreciate the heck out of you guys every week joining on the solo shows on Monday and then with Brunswick and I on the main shows every weekend. Couldn't do this without you. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the Filipino fan club watching around on the halfway around the world as always. Shout out to my lovely wife watching upstairs. And for this weekend, Vikings Uncensored will be on Saturday night, I believe. I think we're looking at a little bit later show, probably like 9:30. Got to work around Brunswick's work schedule, but that's kind of our plan right now. Anyway, it's a Saturday night show, so make sure you stay tuned for later in the week, and we will give you an official time. But right now, we're looking at 9:30 on Friday. Might have a special guest. I'm checking on a few things to kind of get maybe some perspective from the other side. But we'll leave it at that for right now. See what we can come up with. It might just be Brunswick and I, but we'll see what happens there. But with that, again, thank you guys so much for joining, and go enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go watch some football, and we shall see you guys Saturday night for the studio show. So have a good night, everybody.